Welcome to Rise to Lead, the podcast where heart-driven leaders come together to inspire and innovate. They will share actionable tips and insights that help you lead your team more successfully, advance your career or business as a leader, achieve greater impact, and experience deeper fulfillment. I'm your host, Regina Huber, guiding you through deep conversations about leadership that's rooted in service, freedom, and the desire to leave a positive mark on the world. Are you ready to create real change in your leadership, your career, your life? Join me for a complimentary Lead and Thrive session, a 60-minute one-on-one strategy session where we will discuss your specific needs and map out the next steps to lead yourself and others powerfully. Spots are limited, so don't wait. Visit transformyourperformance.com/Lead Thrive session to book your Lead and Thrive session today. Let's work together to make it happen. Welcome to Rise to Lead. I'm excited to connect you with Jenny Alday Townsend from Florida today. Jenny, welcome to Rise to Lead, first of all.
Welcome, Regina. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
I am too. Let's have another great conversation like the one we had for your podcast quite a while ago now already.
Yeah, it has been. So congratulations on your book. Very exciting to launch a book and just transform your life.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, we have that in common, the book. That's great. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So let me quickly introduce you to our awesome listeners. Jenny Alday Townsend is a keynote speaker, podcaster, Amazon best-selling author, and thriving businesswoman focused on inspiring individuals to achieve balance in their professional lives and marriage. Having experienced and triumphed over her marital challenges, she penned the book Stroke It. It is a means of supporting others facing similar struggles. Jenny is the proud proprietor of Music Compound, a renowned music academy that has garnered accolades such as Best Woman-Owned Business. Wow, congratulations. And Small Business of the Year. In recognition of her outstanding achievements, Jenny was honored with the Entrepreneur of the Year Award in 2019. Congratulations again. Now happily married, Jenny enjoys traveling, savoring delectable cuisine, and cherishing quality time spent with loved ones. You should come to France at some point where I am right now, Jenny.
I would love to. I'm planning on spending a whole month in Europe next year, so maybe I will.
Okay, yeah, I can definitely also talk to my home country, Germany, and give you some tips. But yeah, I'm here right now and always moving around a bit. But where I am right now, it's definitely one of the food capitals of Europe. So, Jenny, tell us more about you, first of all. What brought you to where you are today? You have these beautiful accolades, and I'm assuming it's not for nothing that you that you were awarded.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. And I'm excited to share the story as well with you and the listeners. So my parents were entrepreneurs. So I was always an entrepreneur. I always had a dream to have my own business. I never knew what that was going to be. When I was selling real estate in the mid 2000s, I thought that was going to be my career long term. And unfortunately, the market crashed. So I had to go back to school to receive my bachelor's because during that time, you couldn't even apply for a job without a bachelor's degree, which in today's world, you don't need a degree. I mean, at the end of the day, the workforce is so completely different. And you can get started with a career just by taking a couple online classes or getting in with the company as well. So it's very different when I'm talking about like sales, admin, marketing. Obviously, if you're going to be a doctor or an attorney, you definitely need to go to college today. So I started my career in college in my late 20s, and it was in my final semester of that where I developed the business plan for Music Compound. And that was inspired by musicians that I was working with. I was waiting tables to pay my mortgage in the middle of trying to have like save it from the bank trying to foreclose on it. And it was just a bad mess. And I thought my world was crashing. But little did I know it was really setting me up for my future. And I took that business plan and I just filed it away and got a job that allowed me to apply because I had the bachelor's degree. And that job allowed me to travel the country for 3 to 4 years. And during that time frame, I would research and tour and connect with other business owners that owned and operated music schools, knowing one day I would potentially launch my dream business. And that's what I did. And in 2016, I launched my business, which is called Music Compound. It's a music school in Sarasota. I have over 34 team members. We're going to be entering our 9th year of business in January and looking forward to celebrating 10 years. And I have a whole plan for that. So my parents were always entrepreneurs and I always worked hard. I loved leading people. I grew up doing 4-H, so I was always in a leadership role in all of my clubs, along with middle school, high school, class president, all those good things. So my goal has always been just to inspire people, help people, lean in and really guide and provide hope for them as well. And my parents always believed in me. They're like, you can do anything. Like literally, if I wanted to be the president of the United States, I could be. That's how much I believe in myself. And that was because of the upbringing of my parents, and they did not fear failure. And I think that's what allowed me to soar and be the woman that I am today. So yeah, so started my company, and then what I thought was going to be an amazing journey has been, but it also came with some other things as well. When you risk it all, you are really risking it all. So I can kind of lead into the whole stroke it concept as well, but that's really who I am. I'm an entrepreneur and I live very authentically, and I love just sharing my story and inspiring others.
That is beautiful. And you know what? I can relate to so many things. First of all, congratulations to your upcoming anniversary. That's really awesome. 9 years is quite a good chunk of time, and you have done it very successfully. So that's beautiful to hear. And yeah, so while our stories are very, very different, I certainly have risked it all a few times in my life. And that's also what I talk about in my book, Living My Freaking Amazing Life. And we're going to talk about your book, Stroke It, in just a bit, because I'm really curious. I have to admit, I have not read it yet. I do want to read it. And but for now, let's just talk a little bit about the music compound. As the owner of Music Compound, what leadership qualities have been in you from your perspective, right? What leadership qualities have been most critical to your success in building an award-winning business?
Right. So I think having a vision and a goal has really helped with the success of the company. It's helped also with the individuals that work within the organization. I'm able to recruit people that align with the vision. And our vision is to transform dreams into reality. And we do that through inspiring, collaborating, and education. So that's pretty much our tagline. Everything we do is to inspire students and teachers to take education in their own hands, and we allow them to pick the music that they want to learn, which I think is really great. The parents aren't necessarily suggesting or telling us what they're going to do. We allow the students to have a voice, no matter what their age is. The collaborative part of it is team building. It's bringing minds together, connecting with like-minded individuals, and it's in an environment that's non-judgmental. It's in an environment that's really boosting your confidence and the support of other individuals in this community as well. And then through the education, we do not have a curriculum that we mandate. We allow each teacher to use their own philosophies, their own findings, their own approaches, and their own experience to teach each individual student, which allows our teachers to feel empowered and they feel a sense of ownership for every single student versus me telling them, you have to teach it this way. And if you don't, you're not going to work here. And I don't have a music background. I don't have an education background. So essentially I'm hiring these key individuals and I have to trust them that they're going to do their end of the bargain, which is to inspire, collaborate, educate, but teach these individuals where they're progressing And I have to do my part, which is marketing, sales, outreach, admin, payroll, all the things that they don't want to do. So since they don't want to do my job and I can't do their job, it makes a really great partnership. I need them and they need me, which has created a really great culture and bond and trust and understanding that has allowed us to have team members that have been with us from the very beginning, which have been with us, 7, 8, 9 years. And we're looking forward to, continuing their journey with us. So I would say with the approach and obviously with that vision of where we're going to be, what's our critical number, where are we going, and how that's going to impact the employees of the company. It's not just about me. Yes, I would like to make more money. Yes, I would like to have new cars and all that stuff. But, it's really not about me. It's about them. I started my company with a dream to have it. And for the first 3 years, I worked for free. I was being paid in smiles and impact and hugs and just the transformation of all of these individuals. So I never did it about them for the money. I think that was another key to our success is I always believed that the money would come eventually. When it was right, when it was there, it would come. And it has started to come as well. So just this past year, we moved into a 10,000 square feet facility, and I was able to fund that from the success of the company the past 9 years, which was really great not to take a loan and pay high interest rates, which also helps with the success of the company as well. So those are just a few things that I think have impacted the success of the company.
I really like the concept that, and you, in a way, you have to, right, Jenny, because you are not a music teacher, you said. So you are there as a leader and the manager at the same time of this team and of this company. And yes, and so it's very important for you and them to trust each other. So apparently you have built a very successful uh, a basis for everybody to work together in trust, right?
Yeah, and the trust has been huge throughout the company. I do believe that a lot of that trust came because I became so invested in the employees as well. And I would say it's sometimes too much. And that's where I've had to back off this past year, which has caused a couple different issues as well that we're trying to get back on track. But I became so invested in my employees and I wanted them all to dream big. I wanted them to buy houses. I wanted them to have the same vacations as me. I wanted them, I truly believe that anyone can do anything they put their mind to. I have had to learn that it's not my business how they spend their money. If they want to go and buy a $600 car payment, that's their deal. They won't be able to travel. They won't be able to have things. So not that I was lecturing them on that things, but I brought in financial coaches. I brought in wellness coaches. I brought in a lot of things to help the whole body of the employee. And I was enabling, and then there was a couple of things that came out of it as well. So I've had to pull back as much as like getting so personally involved in the team members' lives, which has been kind of hard for me to pull back because I always really wanted to lean in and help them. But at the end of the day, employees have to help themselves and they have to take ownership of their own lives. We as employers cannot save them, and we can't always be the voice of reasoning for them. And sometimes we have to be a leader and a boss. We can't be a friend. And that can be a really big struggle at times as you grow and as you've been with these people for 8 or 9 years as well. And then as a leader, obviously I manage my finances differently. So as we grow, my finances are going to grow a little bit differently than their finances, and how I spend my money is going to be different. So, preventing that resentment and that like, hey, we've all been here together. Why aren't we all doing those things? Can become challenging as you grow with your individuals and your company.
Right. It's important to remember, right, Jenny, that even as coaches and as wellness practitioners and holistic practitioners and in all those different roles as leaders, to that people do not need us. They do not need our help, right? And they're not obligated to need us. They must be able, or we need to give them the freedom to decide that themselves, right? Do they want it? And then if they ask, we can step in if that's what we think we're good at, right?
Yeah, definitely, the whole needing, and I just had some recent conversations with my team
Mhm.
members, one in particular, and he was like, you used to be my person that I would call for everything, or that, I needed, and I don't feel like you are that person now. And I broke a level of trust with this person because I was stepping back, because I was doing certain things. So now I'm trying to regain that. But as a leader, it's like, I stepped back because it wasn't the right thing to do for the company, was to keep enabling and keep feeding and keep doing all those things. So, I think that through the years as leaders, we get to a point where we have to start identifying what is in the best interest of the company as well, where I've always been a leader of the people. I've always led with my heart. And with our expansion and with us going into, 10 years of operations, there are certain milestones and goals that are there that I would like to meet in order for our entire company to thrive and to grow. And in return, all of our individuals that work for our company will be able to earn more. In the sense, I'm doing that for them, but they don't always understand that or the why. So it's like trying to do a better job of that as well. But for the most part, I think most companies go through this, as it's a roller coaster. I always say this, and I most recently, I feel like we're all working harder right now than we have in the past few years. I mean, we were in Florida, so everybody was flocking to COVID during Florida. So we were just growing, and we have leveled out this past year. So we're trying to make some changes and go back to some basics as well. So, it's been a fun little journey, and I'm excited for the next year for sure.
Yeah, and I can speak to that. I mean, I also escaped the lockdown in New York. I did not want to do this at all, and I never will. So I spent time in Florida too. Now, yes, and what you said though, I want to focus on what you said about going back to the basics. I think that is something that actually any business would benefit from time to time, to really evaluate, what is our fundamental base as a business, and do we still live along those values, for example, right? And is everything still in its place, that sort of the pillars still in their places, so to speak?
Yeah, I think the basics, going back to the business plan and following
Mm.
that, I believe everybody that has a business should have a business plan. And I review that business plan on an annual basis, sometimes more frequently as well. And I always refer back to my business canvas when I first started my company to make sure that I am still true to why we started the company, still true to the vision, the mission of the company as well, and what the goal was. And that was to transform lives and impact people. So I think it's really important to always have those basics. And, we're in the process of developing the systems. A lot of us, I've always had our managers develop, a playbook for their position. And I had this one guy one time goes, well, that's job security. If I create the playbook, you can replace me. And I said, the goal is to take you to the next level. And in order to do that, we've got to find a really good replacement for you. It's not because I don't want you to work within my company. I'm ready to take the company to the next level, and I'm going to bring you with me. And so we've all developed playbooks, but throughout the years, they change. So we're in the process of really making the company a turnkey to where it thrives. And if we do take a void in a person, or we reallocate their role, or we move them to a different position, the company can still thrive and grow.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So yes, it's always about both sides, and how do they fit together, right? How do they best fit together so that you can create a win-win-win? Like it's a win for your team, a win for you, and a win for your customers or clients.
Yeah, exactly. Something that we have done too in the past, and we do every year, I do this personally, is we pick a word for the year for the actual
Mhm.
company. So, a few years ago it was quality, then it was believe, this year it's grow. And we take that word and we put it into a focus wheel. And we all complete how this word is going to transform the company, ourselves, and the team as a whole, and the experience from a customer standpoint as well. So we're looking forward to this year. We do a couple different tactics like that, and I host coffee and conversations on a weekly basis. That's where I bring our team together, where they can connect, they can share wins, they can share struggles, teaching experiences. And it's a really great way just to get some dialogue and connect our team together. It requires them to become vulnerable too, which I think is really great. It breaks some barriers as well. So it's something else that we do to foster that collaboration with our team.
I love that. A focus wheel. I love it. Okay, so tell us more about your stroke it method. And would you say it is a heart-centered leadership approach at all, or how would you define it? Tell us more about it.
Yes. So the concept of stroke it came about because I discovered that my husband was having an affair with a coworker, which is super, super common. I had speculated it for years, but I was so busy in my business and just running my life, which was totally rocking, that I didn't really have time to focus on my personal life. And that's when I said, when you risk it all, I really I was like, oh, I don't have any money to lose, or, like, okay, if I lose my house, I never really considered losing my marriage when I said I was going to risk it all. And that's exactly what happened when I decided to start my company. Anyone that has ever started a company that they've been dreaming about and wanting to do, you will become obsessed with it. You cannot prevent it. And you have to become obsessed with it in order for it to be successful. And so throughout the startup phase of it, the first few years, that was happening at my husband's office with a coworker. So the title of it is called Stroke It because somebody else was stroking my husband emotionally, physically, mentally, and all the other ways as well. So she was underneath him, probably literally.
Yeah.
But so, he felt validated, and she, listened to him in ways that I didn't. And there's a lot of ways that we can compare the different relationships. The book focuses on my recovery from discovering that this was reality. And it talks about just people and how to validate them, how to love them, how to care for them. So it goes like through every chapter, starting with yourself, then your spouse, employee, employer, friends, and family. So it does a really great job of educating the readers into personal and professional development. And it also provides a sense of this may be how your spouse is feeling, or this is maybe what your spouse is going through. So there's definitely sharing of two sides, plus a lot of my podcast guests and their theories and tactics and journeys are also included in the book. So it's not just based on my philosophy. Once again, the goal is to enhance every relationship, first and foremost, starting with yourself and then going from there. And I'm super proud of it. I think that it provides a lot of insight and a lot of growth. And there's a lot of really, really great value in there that anyone at any age can benefit from.
Yes. I love it when the wisdom shared in a book, it comes from those real life stories, right? Again, this is also something we both did in both our books, and I just think there's so much theory shared all the time, but everybody has this unique wisdom, and there's a piece in that wisdom, even if it's somebody else's wisdom, that serves us, right? And I think that's the beauty of it. Go ahead.
Yeah, 100%. And I always had people say to me when we were going through the journey, the
Mhm.
recovery journey, oh, if you can make it through this, you'll have the best marriage. Well, when you're completely heartbroken, all trust has been broken, and there's no way you can even think of that. You're like, there's no way. I'm never going to be able to forgive. I'm never going to be able to move on. You have all these emotions, and it's really hard to believe that person or listen to that person in time. But I do want to say, anyone that is listening that is experiencing or maybe going through that, my husband and I just celebrated 11 years of marriage. We have an amazing marriage. We have more connection, more love, more presence than we ever did in the previous marriage. And so we did separate for a little bit. And during that time, instead of playing like the blame game of who did what wrong, we took time to really discover who we were and what we wanted. And we were able to come back together, and we rented an apartment downtown. Just that way, if it didn't work out, one could leave. There was like no strings attached. We sold our house, split all of our assets. And so there was really no strings attached where we had to make anything work. And I think that was so beautiful. We both did the work on ourselves And we both had to forgive ourselves before we were able to forgive each other. And I think my husband may still be working through forgiving himself in some capacity. But, I had to forgive myself first and foremost because I replayed everything during those 3 years and everything prior and all the warning signs I ignored and all the red flags. And I was really mad at myself for not putting my marriage a priority. I always put my company first, and it became my love. It became my everything. And so if you are running a business where you're going through any of this, like it all will get better and it's all going to be worth it. I was at a point in this recovery stage of thinking I was going to have to sell my company or get divorced. I didn't believe I could have both. And today I do have both, and both of them are absolutely amazing. There's still struggles in between them, especially with my company with this past year, what I've been going through. But the marriage is really, really great. So, I'm really confident that I'll be able to get both of them just really back on track in the upcoming year, but it's going to require a lot of discipline. It's going to require a lot of focus, and it's going to require a lot from me as well, but I've got to remember to still be present and be there for my husband as well, so he can continue to support me and the overall dream that I have.
Yes, and it touched on self-leadership a couple of times. Yes, it all starts with self. So true. Also, forgiveness. It is an important topic for, I think, all of us at some point in our lives, right? And, I have also found that it's often harder to forgive ourselves, but in the end, one doesn't work without the other. Never. Either way. It really only works when we do both, because in the end, we also say we are all one. So how does that make sense? If we can only forgive in one way, in one direction, doesn't really work, right? So I have another, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, I just want to say too, with about the forgiveness,
Yes.
my parents were divorced. My parents went through a similar situation as well. And one thing that my dad did say is don't ever let the anger take over you. And then the second part was he never forgave my mom for everything that she did. And my dad lived many years unhappy, and he isolated himself from family functions. He isolated himself from really all of us too. And when I looked at my father and I was like, God, I do not want to be that. That's when I really knew that I needed to do a lot of work and I needed to look within and I needed to find forgiveness at some point, knowing it may take some time. So it did allow myself to be set free. And then my husband, it took my husband a long time to believe that, because actions speak louder than words as well. So if you do decide that you're going to forgive yourself or your spouse, do not expect a celebration party that you reached forgiveness. Everybody processes that differently, and some of them take a little bit more time. And it will all work out as well. Just don't expect someone to be like, okay, everything is fine right after you say, I forgive you, or you forgive yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a process and it feels different to everybody. And we need to respect this. So, how have you used this method, this stroke it method, in your own business? Have you used it? Well, yeah, you've created this successful and award-winning organization, right? So, have you used it in very specific ways that you would share with us?
Yeah, definitely. So for me, stroke it is essentially a validation, acknowledgement, being present, and making people feel loved and appreciated. And so with leadership, I do that in a variety of ways. First and foremost, we do an intake form. So when you start working at our company, we want to know what's your favorite coffee, what's your favorite food. We do ask about the love languages as well, like how do you receive praise, how do you receive validation, all of those different things. And we basically take this series of questions and we put it into a document. And so if, for instance, I had a team member that went above and beyond a couple weeks ago, and I know he was exhausted and he really wanted to tell me no, but he didn't. So I went back to that get to know me form, and I ordered his coffee and I got his favorite food and I hand wrote him a note. And by that afternoon, when he got out of some meetings and lessons, I had that for him. And I was like, thank you so much. And that just basically spoke to him. And he automatically could understand the appreciation that I had for him and how much of an impact of him saying yes to me made. And I didn't just take it and say, okay, great, he did that for me and moved to the next thing. I literally stopped in my tracks and made sure that I was going to make sure that this impacted him as well on a personal level. So I have also used it with previous managers. So understanding the love languages can be really key. And there's a book out there for the business as well. It's not just all about the relationships by Gary Chapman. I think he's the co-author of the one that's for love languages in the workplace. And so I had two managers working for me, both doing similar jobs. If I were to reward them, let's say with $20, one manager would want the cash because she was going to go hike the Appalachian Trail and she needed that because she wanted to be able to achieve her dream. The other, so gifts was what she wanted. And then quality time was Tom's. So Tom would rather me take that $20 and take him out to lunch. So understanding those love languages and how they play a part into those individual lives that work with you makes a huge impact as well. Understanding their disc analysis as well also helps me with stroking them. So do they like praise like at a staff meeting, or is an email sufficient enough? Or do I need to put it in the Slack channel, tag them and make a big do and put a lot of emojis in there? So understanding how they like to receive this acknowledgement and this praise can also be beneficial to leading your team. And so I just think it's really important. I have gotten in trouble with some of my team members. They've been like, oh, you're not stroking me enough. And I'm like, oh, so they have no problem calling me out as well. And I did such a great job stroking them and taking care of them. Obviously, none of this was literally or physically. This is just using my words or different actions. So, they will, say, oh, I don't feel validated or you're not stroking me. And at that point, I have to really look at the situation. And our company took a drop this past year, 13% this past year. So if that's the case, obviously I'm not going to be stroking my team members because obviously we're not growing the way we were. I'm not able to do all the things that I was doing before because that financial gain is not there. And so bringing them back to reality and saying, hey, maybe I'm not saying all these things or doing the things that I was doing before, but let me show you why I'm not. And breaking that down and giving them examples of not necessarily where we failed, but where we're not at our highest level or we're not at peak performance. And then once again, but that goes back into having those like 90-day meetings where we're assessing and keeping everybody accountable. My personal word for 2024 was going to be accountability. And I went to a CEO forum function and I stood up and I said what my word was. And this guy was like, that's the worst word. Nobody wants to work for people who are going to hold you accountable. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay. Well,
I
then I went
agree,
with
actually.
And then I went with the word grace. And then I just gave them grace to do nothing. I didn't hold them accountable. It was like the exact opposite. And so, I've had my coaches back and, they're like, no, you've got to hold people accountable. They want you to hold them accountable. They want to reach that goal and see that success and that be celebrated versus them just going through the motions every single day. They want you to push them. They want you to believe in them. So it's been very transformative this year. We've all been learning as well, but I think it's really, really important to validate your employees and not just when it helps you, it's when it helps other people as well. Like it can't just be based on the company's financials. There's a lot of other ways that we can validate them and show appreciation. I usually write handwritten notes as well to all my team members every year around the holiday season, and they get a bonus as well. So there's a little bit of that goes with it. Oh, and I get massages for them too. So there's a lot of things that we do for them as well that help with like the wellness, which helps them become better for themselves.
Yeah, and stay healthier.
Yes.
So it actually also you get a payoff too, even if that's not your first intention with it, but why not, right? You have healthier employees. That's great. So yes, the love language. So if you have never heard about this, my dear listeners, look into it. It's very, very interesting. Now, one aspect that you sort of touched on, although you didn't really say the word, was transparency also in your communication. right? This is very, very important. And when you mention accountability, I'm somebody who actually doesn't like that word either. So I think a lot of people do not necessarily like it, but it's more about the meaning we give it. Because, like with every word, you can give it different meanings, and it can sound a little bit, like micromanaging almost to some people. It can sound like, oh, that's something that I never liked as a little girl or little boy, hold you accountable, like the responsibility word is such a word too. So, and for other people, to other people, it sounds completely fine. Now, I also do believe, though, and you talked about trust a lot, the more you build that trust, the less you need to hold people accountable,
Yeah.
because and the more you set expectations, which is also important, because if you only have the trust and people don't know what's expected from them, then it might not work either, right? But when you have both and the appreciation with it now, so we have trust, setting expectations and appreciation, then you probably need a little bit less of that holding accountable activity.
Yeah, 100%. And I think too, if they understand what the vision is, or what are we working for every
Yes.
single year, and that's where I, as a leader, failed this past year. And the reason being is that I was so focused on the company. But when it came to having the people in place and the systems in place, the company was just, it was just going. I basically worked myself out of a job, which was the end goal. And then I became focused on the book and the podcast. And so what my leadership team saw was me drifting away from them and me going to the next level. And they felt like I was leaving them behind and I wasn't bringing them with me. And I had to, obviously explain this in a way to like, hey, this is my passion project. This is what I do outside of the company. And this is what fuels me. Well, what ended up happening is that I wasn't present enough. I literally like walked out and I wasn't there connecting with them. I wasn't there sharing the journeys and leading them and, supporting them or acknowledging them, or I wasn't there to see them doing a really great job. And my leadership team should have been supporting each other and seeing those and filling that void, but they were not. And at the end of the day, they wanted it to come from me. So that's where I'm getting back into the business and kind of like re-engaging with my leadership team to where there is trust, there is connection as well, which has been challenging from a leader standpoint as well. So I would say I've learned a lot this past year and I'm looking forward to this upcoming year.
Well, it's a way of you now elevating your leadership game and their leadership game at the same time, right? And really helping them see that you trust them enough, giving them
Yes.
that authority so that
Yes.
they can actually also make decisions. And maybe they were perfectly in a place from your standpoint, but they were not, they had a different perception. And
Correct.
that's also something that we need to develop, and it's not always an easy job.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see this is a beautiful development. Congratulations. Yeah.
It's been fun. It's been challenging, and at the same time, we're all learning a lot from about ourselves as well. And I'm definitely an encourager, and there's sometimes I'm so much like passionate about where we're going and what we're doing and like how we're gonna get there. But at times, depending on how I say things or how it comes out, or I'm a very direct person as well, it can become off as discouraging, not as much as encouraging to other people.
Mhm.
So I think as well as a leader, we're constantly learning, we're constantly having to adapt, and we have to continue encouraging our team members. But at the end of the day, we do need to continue growing our company and pushing them too.
Right. While navigating all those complexities, while staying aligned with your vision for the company and as a leader and your team vision, and while taking into account that everybody has a different personality.
Yeah,
Right? And
as
therefore
well. Don't
also,
forget it. Don't forget about the core values as well. We got to add those in there and
right.
apply those. Yeah.
There's a lot more. I'm sure we forgot a lot of things here in this list, but it's really also about people. And how complex people are and how everybody understands a certain behavior in a slightly different way, or in a very different way sometimes.
Yeah. Well, and that's why we're really incorporating like the DISC training into our organization as well, and understanding how people operate, and like how to approach them as far as a conversation. What's the tone of the voice? Like, are you giving them a lot of facts? Are you giving them a little bit of facts? I think that's really going to help. So for our leadership team, we've all taken the DISC analysis. We've also done 360 reviews. I mean, we're constantly trying to enhance our team and the individuals on the team as well. So this upcoming year, those profiles will be displayed by all of our offices. So that way, when you're coming in with a challenge, you know how to phrase that conversation so the person you're talking to can hear what you're saying as well. And then another thing that we're doing, which I'm super excited about, in our break room, we have a fairly large break room as well. And we have 2 whiteboards in there. And on the whiteboards, everybody is going to have a block where it's going to say what your name is, your word of the year, and your why for 2025. That way, every single time we come in for a team meeting, every time they come into work, every time they come in, whether they're happy, they're sad, they know why they are coming to work. At the end of the day, it's going to benefit them personally, which I think is super, super huge when it comes to enhancing the attitude when they walk in the door. They're going to see the benefit as well. So it may be travel, it may be buy a new car, maybe start a side hustle. Hopefully it's not get a new job. um, so there'll be a variety of different things on there as well. And then we can all support each other, and we're all like rowing in the boat together. But we're encouraging, okay, well, what are you doing to save your money so you can buy that new car, or where are you going to be traveling to? And I think it's going to be really great to really see what's going on outside of our company and these personal lives that we can all support and hope that they can all achieve by the end of the year, which is going to be my ultimate goal. I would really love to see a check mark next to every single body's name that they achieved the one thing that they wanted to achieve in 2025.
Wow. Yes. I love how this conversation has been going. You have shared so much and very openly, and our listeners will appreciate this so, so very much. There's so much to learn here. I cannot thank you enough. Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you would like to add at this point that I have not asked you?
No, I just want to encourage everyone to, take ownership of your life. And if you would be interested, my book is on Amazon. I would encourage you to get that. There's great downloads, and the book is great for anyone entering their 20s, their 30s, anyone that's experiencing like a midlife crisis. If you're considering ending or mending your marriage, the book could provide some great clarity as well. I do have some trainings and coaching options for you on those topics too. And yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're ever in Sarasota, stop by my music school.
Yes. And where else can people find you most easily?
My website is the best. So it's
Mhm.
Jenny Alday with one L,
Mhm.
Townsend.com. That's going to allow you to see the music school, the book, the courses, and all the great stuff that we have to offer anyone that's interested in transforming their lives as well. And if you're interested in starting a business, I love talking to individuals that want to become entrepreneurs and creating the business canvas and creating a plan as well. So my website is the best way. Yes, I'm on all the socials if you just Google my name. And you can also look up my name to get my podcast, which is the Stroke It Guide on all streaming platforms.
Thank you so much again for sharing your knowledge and your expertise, your unique wisdom with us today. I was really excited to also hear about this type of company because there are not so many out there. And especially what I loved about it also is in terms of from the children's perspective. Yes, that they can actually choose what they want. I think this is so, so critical. Now, where do you get that?
Yeah, I think what we love about that to that
Uh-huh.
point is giving them a voice.
Yeah.
And so many times they don't have a voice because they
Mhm.
have so many people talking for them
Yeah.
or making those decisions for them. So we are definitely empowering individuals to use their voice. And that comes from student, teacher, and even client as well. So I think it's really, really important. And it also obviously goes in line with what we do, which is music education.
Beautiful. Yes, and just because I picked up my the Portuguese version of my book just before we started the recording here. I want to quickly also announce that you can now get my book in Portuguese. It's called Vivendo a Minha Vida Freaking Incrível. Cria a vida perfeita para você em qualquer lugar do mundo. And of course, the original book was called Living My Freaking Amazing Life. Create the life that's perfect for you anywhere in the world. It's now also in Portuguese, so I want to celebrate that too with you, Jenny, and with everybody listening. Thank you so much for being here. This brings us to the end of today's episode. Thanks to everyone for listening. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend to my benefit as well. And stay tuned for more. Until next time, stroke it. Thank you for tuning in to Rise to Lead. Keep shining your light, standing up for what's right, and inspiring others to step into their brilliance. If you like this episode, please give it a 5-star rating and subscribe to the Rise to Lead podcast on your preferred podcast app. Until next time, it's Regina Huber, and in the meantime, remember to rise to lead.